It's time to feel what you've been bottling up. Life in rural America isn't easy. The long hours, the constant pressures, the demands of the land, livestock, and family, it all takes a toll. We're tough and we've got grit, but somewhere along the way, toughness started meaning bottling up emotions and powering through. But here's the truth. That strategy, it's not working and it's poisoning us. Maybe you've noticed and maybe you haven't, but the numbers don't lie. We're breaking down and it's showing up in our bodies, our relationships, and in the rising suicide rates in agriculture. You don't have to carry any of it alone. There's another way. If you're ready to stop being weighed down and start moving forward, my one-on-one good movement guidance is now open. Visit the link in the show notes to learn more and see if one-on-one guidance could be for you.
I'll carry you, you carry me, we'll help each other through it. Come on and see, good movement draws good movement.
Welcome to Good Movement Draws Good Movement, the podcast where farmers, ranchers, and rural folks can grow relationally through awareness, understanding, and effective communication. Hey, it's T. I'm your host, and I, along with my guests, will be covering topics related to drawing good movement. Things like self and social awareness, brain science, positive psychology, extending grace, and so much more. We'll share tools that can help you understand why you are the way you are, why others are the way they are, and how you can use that to step out of self-told lies with grace and compassion to draw good movement in conversations, relationships, and life in rural America. Let's go draw good movement. Welcome back to the Good Movement Draws Good Movement podcast. I saw this meme a little while back, and it read, if you've ever worked cattle with your dad, brother, mom, or soon-to-be spouse, you are probably not a sensitive snowflake. As we discussed in episode 20, memes like this abound on the rural ag side of the internet, and I know they're meant to be funny. We also discussed that in episode 20. But frankly, I find them more concerning than humorous. And this one in particular ruffled my feathers. So let's break it down. A snowflake, by internet definition, is someone who is overly emotional, easily offended, and unable to deal with opposing opinions. I don't know about you, but when I think about the opposite of snowflake, or someone who is probably not a snowflake, as it relates to this specific reference, I think of someone with a thick skin. Thick skin, again, by internet definition, is someone with the ability to keep from getting upset or offended by things other people say and do. I consider myself to have a relatively thick skin, and I sometimes know that what I feel on the inside is not the same as what I show other people. And I say sometimes because over the years, I've gotten pretty proficient at falling asleep to my feelings and emotions all together, which doesn't mean they're gone. It means I've grown so numb, I don't even know they exist. All of that to say, I question, does having a thick skin or not being a sensitive snowflake, every time I say snowflake or sensitive snowflake, please know that I'm using air quotes. But does having a thick skin or not being a sensitive snowflake mean we genuinely don't feel upset or offended? Or do we actually feel those things and refrain from showing them or speaking them? If I was a betting woman, I would bet the latter and not the former is true most of the time. I believe if we're honest with ourselves, we do feel upset and offended, but don't show, speak, or acknowledge it because we haven't been taught how to emote, or we've been taught that emoting is straight up bad and we shouldn't do it. That being said, just because we aren't sensitive snowflakes doesn't mean we are more emotionally intelligent, we're better off. It just means we're better at shoving down our emotions, setting them aside, or not even being aware of what they are and that we have them. We're just better at doing what's socially acceptable. And that, my friends, is dangerous. We've been led to believe that being strong means showing no emotion. And friends, we have been misled. Repressing, shoving down, and numbing emotions leads to somatization reactions. In other words, the emotional pain we hold in finds another way out in the form of physical pain. Think unexplainable headaches, backaches, nausea, muscle pain, or worse. According to a 2020 study, the national suicide average is 14.1 deaths per 100,000 people. In agriculture, that rate is 43.7 deaths per 100,000 people. That is not the highest rate among occupational groups, but it's one of the highest and falls in the top 10. It's number 6. And that is a lot of deaths. A lot of deaths. I mean, the national average is a lot by suicide, but the fact that I'm not strong at math, but rounding, it's over 3 times as high in agriculture. That's a lot. Another study published in 2021 that analyzed suicide risk factors among farmers in the Midwestern United States cited self-blame as the risk factor for suicide among producers. More specifically, characterological self-blame, or the self-blame that attacks one's own character, negatively influencing self-esteem and leaving people feeling hopeless. The study stated, this is quote, "It is possible that farmers that are high risk for suicide internalize their difficulties, for example, relationships and financial distress, as a defect in their character and feel as if they cannot affect change." So yeah, maybe we're not sensitive snowflakes, but the way we've been doing it clearly isn't working either. It's literally killing us. If I sound fired up, it's because I am. These communication breakdowns and relationship issues have become so normal to us in rural America that we make jokes about them in real life and on the internet. We all laugh and they go viral. But what if that's not how it's meant to be? I didn't have the words to accurately express how I feel about this topic and what I've been doing with my life recently up until I read them in a book a couple of weeks ago. If what's normal is assumed to be natural, the norm will endure. On the other hand, when suspicions emerge that the way things are may not be how they're meant to be, well, the quo may not be status for long. These words are those of Dr. Gabor Mate, and they're in his book, The Myth of Normal. And those words, his words, sum it up pretty damn well for me. The norm in rural America and how we approach emotions, communication, and relationships is not the way things are meant to be. And it's time to take the quo and make sure it isn't status for much longer. So how do we do that? The first step is to acknowledge that what we've been doing isn't working. Then we acknowledge our emotions. And I know that sounds scary, and it's coming from someone who's spent most of their life perfecting the art of numbing. Waking up to the sensation of my own feelings has not been easy, but it is 1000% been worth it. Also, I'm going to tell you this because I didn't know until recently, but emotions can move through our bodies and be out in as few as 90 seconds. But that's if we allow the full expression of the feelings to move through without trying to alter or dismiss it. I.e., we can't hold it in and keep it all wrapped up in our thick skin. And 90 seconds, that's dang fast. That's dang fast. I'm going to give you something tangible to move on from this podcast episode with. So here's a practice you can use to get fast at actually feeling emotions. When something happens, like say your dad yells at you because you let the red calf in instead of buy, or your spouse is short with you for no apparent reason other than it's calving season and everyone's short on sleep, start by noticing how you feel and where you feel it in your body. So emotions will elicit a physical feeling. For my personal self, when I feel angry, the first place I feel it is in my gut. Like I feel an actual twinge in my gut. This is also true for things like fear and anxiety. It starts in my gut. And when I'm angry, I get hot. When I'm anxious, my chest gets tight. When I feel fear, I start to sweat. Like those are physical manifestations of my feelings that I didn't have any idea about until I started doing this work myself. So notice how you feel and where you feel it in your body. Then name the emotion. Say to yourself or out loud, I'm angry, sad, worried, whatever it is. See if you can name it. Then breathe and get curious about it. Ask yourself you might have guessed what I'm going to say next because we talk about it a lot here on the podcast, but ask yourself some honest questions about what you're feeling and where you're feeling it in your body. What does it feel like? Where do I feel it? Remember, always, whether you're getting curious about your emotions or you're interacting with other people, remember to be curious and not critical. You can learn so much more when you lead with curiosity and not criticism. So, get curious, not critical. Then move, like jump up and down, physically shake it off. Dance, wave your hands in the air like you just do not care. But we do care because these emotions we've been taught to avoid are not avoidable. They will find a way to come out one way or another. The good news is we can choose to let them move along on short time in just 90 seconds, or let them come out in the form of actual physical pain or worse. So, my proposal is that instead of making jokes on the internet, we start making changes in the way that we've always done things. And if you take nothing else away from this episode, I hope you take away this. Emotions don't make us weak, but shoving them down and ignoring them does. Until next time, draw good movement. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm so grateful for you. If you found value in this episode, I'd love for you to share with others who might also benefit from tuning in. Share by word of mouth, send it in a text, take a screenshot and post it on social media, or share however you prefer. And if you haven't already, hit the follow or subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Until next time, draw good movement.